You've probably read Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. We all know it as this incredible story about a culture clash. But what if there's a whole other layer to the story? One that's not just about culture, but about cold, hard cash. In this explainer, we're going to dive back into this classic, but with a completely different lens, an economic one. So, here's the big question the book leaves us with. How did this Igbo society, which was so strong, so organized, just fall apart when the British showed up? The usual answer is, it's a story of old ways versus new ideas. But what if that's not the full picture? What if that's not even the most important part of the story? Well, if you look at it through a Marxist lens, a totally different story comes into focus. It suggests that this collapse wasn't some accidental cultural misunderstanding. Nope, it was a planned, systematic takedown of one economy to replace it with another, all for the benefit of the empire. We're not just talking about a culture clash anymore. This is capitalist expansion 101. Okay, so to really get what was lost, we first have to understand what was there to begin with. Before any colonizers arrived, the Igbo people had this incredibly rich and functioning economy. But what did that actually look like? It all boils down to what's called an agrarian mode of production. The easiest way to think about it is that their entire society's operating system was based on farming. Everything, your power, your status, your wealth, was tied directly to the land and what you could grow. It wasn't about abstract profit. It was about real, tangible things you could see and count. So how did you know if someone was successful in this world? It wasn't about the size of their bank account. Wealth was something you could literally see. It was in the size of your yam barns. Yams were called the man's crop for a reason. It was in the titles you earned, the animals you owned, and maybe most importantly, the amount of respect you had in your community. Now, that doesn't mean it was some kind of utopia with no social classes. Not at all. You had guys like Okongwo, a total self-made man who built his reputation on hard work and a massive yam farm. And then you had people like his dad, Unuka, who was pretty much an outcast because he was seen as lazy and unproductive. The key thing here, though, is that your status was based on how well you performed inside their economic system. And then, it all changed. When the British arrived, it wasn't just a friendly visit. It was the start of a full-blown economic invasion. And this, right here, is the absolute crux of the argument. The whole colonial project was wrapped in the language of civilizing people and saving their souls. But underneath all that talk, its real job was economic domination. Culture and religion were just the tools they used to soften the ground for taking over the resources. And they didn't just stumble into this. It was methodical. A playbook, really. Step 1, the missionaries show up. They create divides, weakening the social glue that holds the clans together. Step 2, trading posts open up, introducing all these new goods that create dependency. Step 3, they impose a cash economy, which completely upends the old barter system. And the final nail in the coffin? Step 4, they introduce taxes that have to be paid in cash, forcing people to work for wages. Just like that, the local economy is dismantled. So you might be wondering, how does changing an economy lead to the total collapse of an entire culture? Well, to get that, we need to look at a really core Marxist idea, the relationship between what's called the economic base and the cultural superstructure. It's pretty simple, actually. The economic base is just the foundation of society. It's how a society produces and exchanges things. For the Igbo, this was their yam-based farming economy. It's the engine that runs everything else. Now, here's the kicker. That base determines the superstructure. Think of it like the foundation of a house. The size and shape of your foundation dictates the kind of house you can build on top of it. It's the same with society. The economy, the base, shapes everything else. The laws, the religion, the culture, the whole shebang. So if you change the base, the superstructure has to change with it. And this is exactly what happened. The British didn't just make a few changes. They ripped out the entire foundation of the Igbo economy and put in a new capitalist one. And what did they build on top? A brand new superstructure to support it. Their colonial courts took the place of traditional laws. Christianity pushed out the local beliefs, and a new class of educated elites, loyal to the British, replaced the old clan elders. The old power structure was just gone. So from this viewpoint, religion wasn't just about saving souls. It was an incredibly smart, strategic tool. It went straight for the outcasts of the old system, the people who had nothing to lose, and offered them a path to status in the new world. And in exchange, it preached obedience, which was perfect for creating a compliant workforce for the new colonial economy. Okay, so we've been talking about these huge abstract forces. Let's zoom all the way back in and see how this all comes crashing down on one man, Okonkwo. His personal story is the perfect example of this massive economic shift. You have to see Okonkwo as more than just a character. He is the old economy. Everything he values, strength, hard work, growing yams, those were the cornerstones of that system. So his downfall isn't just about his personal flaws. It's the story of his entire world becoming powerless and, well, irrelevant. And this chart just lays it out so clearly, right? In Okonkwo's world, power came from yams and your own strength. In the new colonial world, power comes from having cash and working for the administration. The core values of society shifted from community and tradition to obedience and making a profit. In this new world, Okonkwo, once this great, respected leader, becomes a nobody. The game changed and he was left holding the old rulebook. And that's why his suicide at the end. Wow. It's so much more than a personal tragedy. It's not just a proud man who couldn't adapt. It is the final, symbolic collapse of an entire way of life, an entire economic world. When the system that gave his life all of its meaning was erased, he was erased right along with it. So to pull this all together, the big takeaway is this. Looking at things fall apart through an economic lens shows that colonialism was, at its very core, a capitalist project. It wasn't just about changing beliefs. It was about totally rewiring an economy and a society for the pure, simple benefit of the empire. And that leaves us with a pretty heavy question, doesn't it? This book is set in the past, but it feels so incredibly relevant. It makes you wonder, how many conflicts in the world today are sold to us as being about culture or religion, when if you dig just a little bit deeper, you find out they're really all about money, resources, and economic control?